Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're going to give folks a few minutes to join before we get started with our program. We're streaming via Facebook, YouTube, and climateinnovationchallenge.org. So however you're tuning in, please ask your questions via the comments and we'll respond there. Greetings. Welcome to the Climate Innovation Challenge Showcase 2021. My name is Phil Lucero, and I'm the Education Director at CAVU, which stands for Climate Advocates Voces Unidas, a nonprofit organization that uniquely blends science and personal stories to reconnect people with each other and to the planet we live on. Thanks for joining us this evening. Right now we have a great turnout, and we'd love to hear from you during tonight's program. Feel free to put any questions in the commenting function on Facebook, YouTube, or the live stream on climateinnovationchallenge.org, and our staff will respond there. We are in our second year of the Climate Innovation Challenge, CAVU's STEAM program that asks students to develop unique ideas for adapting to increasing climate impacts like floods, fires, drought, rising temperatures, and sea level rise. We encourage students to think globally and adapt locally, creating solutions that they can implement in their own communities. Today, we're showcasing students' innovative ideas in short videos and presentations, along with awards for outstanding projects. As I'm sure you'll remember, last August, students and teachers were preparing to begin a school year unlike any other. Teachers were scrambling to build multimedia broadcast stations in their homes, while students and parents navigated online learning amidst upturned family schedules. The departure from our collective routine, along with the other stressors caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, was and is traumatic. Despite all of this, we adapted together. For me, this is no surprise, as I have found teachers to be some of the most compassionate, creative, and generous people. This much is true for the stellar teachers that I've had the privilege to work with in this year's competition. Teachers, I salute you. Thank you for your tireless efforts to help our students adapt to a new way of learning. Our changing climate is another crisis we need to adapt to together. It is unfolding slowly enough to have lurked under the radar thus far. The climate impacts we are already experiencing are getting worse and at a faster and more alarming rate. Longer seasons of drought, worsening wildfire seasons, rising temperatures, whole animal species are going extinct. The list could go on. Again, we must adapt, and the planet needs an all-hands-on-deck approach. The problem scope may seem daunting, but we have hope because together we are investing in our students, our future leaders, and the solutions to these problems. This evening, we celebrate the hard work put in by our students and teachers by showcasing their outstanding efforts. We have had a massive turnout this year with 200% increase in submissions. We had 40 teachers from 30 schools around the Southwest register for the program. In all, we have had 435 students submit 155 projects. Throughout the evening, awards will be given to a total of 13 projects, concluding with the MacGyver Award, our $1,000 grand prize. So make sure you stick around to the very end. We anticipate the whole show running a little over an hour. And don't forget, we'd love to hear from you during tonight's program. Feel free to put any questions in the commenting function on Facebook, YouTube, or the live stream on climateinnovationchallenge.org, and our staff will respond there. This showcase of our amazing youth climate innovators could not be possible without the support of our generous sponsors. There's no need to hold your applause, so at home, make as much noise as you'd like. We would like to thank State Farm, the Lannell Foundation, Sandia National Labs, PNM, the McCune Foundation, Los Alamos National Labs, the Living Ray Foundation, Positive Energy Solar, the MacGyver Foundation, Liberty Ranch, and Santa Fe Farms. This year's showcase keynote speaker has been a climate advocate since her early teens. Delaney Reynolds founded the Sink or Swim project and is featured in our Ahead of the Tide series on sea level rise. She's now in law school and has earned national attention for her advocacy. We are proud and incredibly humbled to have her as our CIC 2021 keynote speaker. She's an inspiration to us all, especially the climate-conscious next generation of leaders here with us today. Delaney?
Hi, Phil. Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you all for attending and for making our climate change crisis and the role that we play in solving it a priority in your life. And of course, for all of your amazing submissions to the Climate Innovation Challenge. Being able to judge some of your projects and play a role in the final decision was truly an honor. The passion that you all have displayed through your work is immense, and I am tremendously inspired by all of you. I want to first start off by thanking David Smith, Jordan Smith, and Phil for having me today. I also want to thank David and Jordan for really helping me to send my nonprofit organization, the Sink or Swim Project, off into the world of filmography. You see, CAVU was the first ever interview that I did on camera for their Ahead of the Tide web series. I'd never been on camera before meeting David, and this picture on the right was for the very first time. So David and CAVU, as the case is today, believed that a child might have a point or two. And I just turned 15, but David and his team treated me with dignity while showing me that they get it and that they're just as worried about the climate change crisis as I am. Each of you have within you the ability to change your community, to change the world. And I hope that when you leave this evening, you'll think a little bit about that and decide to pursue your passions, whatever they may be. As you heard, my name is Delaney Reynolds, and I'm a 21-year-old student at the University of Miami pursuing a dual law and PhD degree in their graduate school studying climate change and its impact to our environment and society. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about my work today, as well as why I believe that our climate change crisis is the most significant challenge that our generations, the youth generations, will ever face in our lifetime. So what you're looking at on screen right now is called Matheson Hammock Park. It's a public park and a saltwater swimming lagoon that's not too far from my home here in Miami. It's a place where, like my father before me, I learned how to swim, a place that my family and countless others have treasured for generations. On the left is a picture of me at age 2 rocking an Elmo bathing suit and enjoying a French fry. Not much has changed. And the video on the right is from the park during a king tide flooding event. And I'm standing on what used to be a road that sea level rise in recent years, along with Hurricane Irma, actually wiped out. And NOAA predicts that the current sunny day flooding, just like the one that's shown in this video, happens about 6 to 8 times per year in Miami-Dade County today. But by 2030, by the time that I'm 30 years old, we could experience 80 flooding events like this per year. And by 2045, by the time that I'm about 45, NOAA predicts we could see 380 flooding events like this. So sometimes more than once a day during the 2 high tides. So that's the threat that we face here in South Florida. Now, I'm the 4th generation of my family to live in Miami, and growing up in South Florida, I've split my time between Miami and a very small 1,000-acre island in the Florida Keys called No Name Key that has just 40 solar-powered homes on it. So in a way, you could say that my life has literally been surrounded by water, and because of that, I've always had a love for nature and a fascination with the ocean. And it's those passions that led me to write, illustrate, and publish 3 children's books on ecology topics in between elementary and middle school. And while I was researching for those books, I learned about climate change, and I decided to write my 4th book on the impacts of sea level rise. So I began by interviewing scientists, business owners, policymakers to learn how they were being impacted and what they were doing about the problem. And the point of the book is to tell their stories about how they're being impacted, so people just like all of you can read them and put yourselves into their shoes and see what it's like to live with sea level rise on a day-to-day basis. And of course, to also talk about how we solve the problem. I took everything that I was learning, including the fact that I felt that young people weren't really quite aware of the magnitude of what was happening and what we needed to do to solve it just yet. And so I founded the Sink or Swim Project, which is a nonprofit organization that aims to educate people about climate change, as well as seek solutions to try and save South Florida and other places just like it before it's too late. Now, of course, as enthusiastic as we kids are about climate change, that's not the case with some adults, especially some of our political leaders. Florida's former governor, for example, refused to do anything to address climate change. And he even banned government officials from using phrases like climate change, sea level rise, and global warming within our government. And that's pretty immoral, if you ask me. We've now had a new governor since 2018, and he has taken a different approach by talking about environmental issues and appointing brand new positions. And this has given a lot of people hope that things would be different under his administration. And he still has the time to make that case, but I personally haven't seen any indication that he will truly commit to addressing the core cause of climate change, which is our fossil fuel emissions. For example, he did create the Chief Resilience Officer position, brand new position for the state, and he ended up filling it with someone whose expertise is in Homeland Security. And less than a year into her position, she left it to go work for former President Trump in Homeland Security. So politics here in Florida can often be very sticky when it comes to climate change. And it's actions like that that have led me to get pretty heavily involved and sometimes even try to circumnavigate the politics. Because of the lack of political action or will here in Florida in my lifetime, 7 of my friends and I have actually filed a lawsuit against the state and its leaders because we believe that the state is not upholding its legal duties to protect our water, our land, our environment, and our atmosphere by burning fossil fuels and releasing massive amounts of carbon dioxide. Now, of course, none of us ever expect to sue anyone for anything, especially at our ages, but we each believe that we are running out of time and that we have to do everything possible before it's too late and we're forced to watch our planet burn, sink, and die. Now, why are young people taking such actions to sue their government? Well, the reality that we face requires us to think boldly and to be aggressive, just like many of you have when it comes to coming up with your projects. A lot of politicians are more concerned about protecting antiquated technologies, fossil fuels, than they are about protecting our future. Think about the fact that just recently, leaders in Texas were attacking renewable energies for causing the power outages that they experienced after the latest snowstorm. Well, the facts are that only 39% of Texas's power is renewable, and even then, it had little to nothing to do with their outages. Their supply of natural gas, which supplies about half of Texas's electricity, it seized up due to frozen pipes and a lack of standby reserves. The power grid failed after about a third of their power company's total capacity, that is supplied by coal, nuclear, and natural gas, went offline because the demand for heating dramatically surged. Of course, everyone was cold. So we have a very long way to go in transitioning our society and our economy from one based on fossil fuels to one based on renewable energies. But here's the good news. We've gone through a major societal shift before, and we can do it again. None of us travel around today in a horse-drawn buggy or wagon, but if it were the 1700s, that was the state of the art in transportation and is exactly how we would have traveled. If it were the late 1800s to early 1900s, chances are you might get around in a new invention called an automobile, like this one. And I suspect some of the same people who made those carriages and wagons or cared for the horses that pulled them had to find new jobs in the innovative automobile industry. Now, before long, in just a few years, I suspect most people will be driving cars like this one, powered by a battery. People adapted and transitioned, and that is the exact same thing that we must do in the energy industry. It's already beginning. Car manufacturers and companies like General Motors, Ford, Honda, Volkswagen, and Jaguar have all begun to shift towards selling products that are solely electric. We need to focus on the solutions that cut back our carbon emissions, and another great example of that is solar power. Scientists predict that 50% of Florida's energy needs could come from the sun by 2045 if we were to just start taking that goal seriously. That could happen in all of our lifetimes. And so after learning about multiple solar ordinances in California, I thought that would be a great idea here in the Sunshine State, as Florida is often known. So I wrote a letter to about a dozen mayors here in South Florida and asked them if they would be interested in writing their own solar law. And the mayor of the city of South Miami, Mayor Stoddard, was the first to respond, and he was super enthusiastic about the idea. And so after working with him for many months on the law, on the left, here I am speaking in front of the commission and the mayor in support of the solar ordinance. And a few months later, South Miami became the very first city in the state of Florida, and Florida the second state in the United States to have a law that requires that any new construction or house of a house or a material renovation of an existing house must install the maximum amount of solar panels on their roof. Now, while I can vote now, I didn't yet have a vote when I helped Mayor Stoddard write this law and implement this law. So if you want to create a solar law in your own community or implement one of your other fantastic ideas to help make our planet a more sustainable place, this is something that any of you can do regarding any sort of topic that you're passionate about. It starts with you reaching out to your local politicians, mayors, commissioners, sharing your ideas, and getting involved. Now, as I conclude my comments today, allow me to take you back to Mathis and Hammock one more time. As much as I love the place and places just like it all over South Florida, I do hope that the day will come when sea level rise does not threaten our region's very existence. I would welcome the opportunity to work on something other than filming videos at dawn on a Sunday morning like the one I showed you earlier. And as much as I love the magazine, I would be happy to not spend the day in a dress in the mangroves and saltwater during a National Geographic photo shoot just to bring awareness to our climate crisis. It'd be great to not have to do those things. But I will continue to fight this fight for as long as I have to. And I would encourage all of you to fight this fight with me, to not give up hope, to realize that we will have setbacks, but what we're fighting for is far too important to give up hope. All over the planet, youth are standing up and using their voices to speak on behalf of our Earth because we're fed up. We're tired of the inaction. That's why we're all here today. And that, to me, gives me the greatest hope for our future. Hope that the youth we see all over the world, that you in this meeting room, will one day replace our current politicians, implement your fantastic innovative projects, and we will finally see progress being made in the right direction. I want to encourage every one of you to continue fighting. to continue to have hope no matter how dark things are on a given day. I mean, what choice do we have? We must protect these special places, because if we don't solve this problem, cherished places like Matheson Hammock, Miami Beach, or anywhere in New Mexico that you love to go to, they could disappear, be lost, forever. My children will never get the chance to swim in a place like Matheson, and to me that's unacceptable. Thankfully, I'm positive that if you simply pursue your passions, if you are willing to truly make sacrifices, each of you can make a difference. No matter who you are, where you're from, or what your challenges might be, you have a voice. And it is my experience that people will listen to you. If you don't speak up and out, then none of us have the right to complain. But if you have a concern, an idea, a passion, I would encourage you to share it with your community and the world. And what I think you'll find is that you will become part of the solution because people will listen. Thank you for having me here today, and please never, ever stop pursuing your passions. Thank you.
Thank you, Delaney. Your passion for environmental activism and stewardship is contagious. I hope you all were taking notes. To learn more about Delaney and her work, look at the websites on the screen. It's miamisearise.com and delaneyreynolds.com. Now on to our awards. Our judging panel have meticulously combed through this year's submissions and have vetted them against a number of different benchmarks. This first round of awards highlights projects that stand out in one or more of these benchmarks. First up, we have, for Best Style Presentation, a prize of $100 each, Don't Play with Fire by Gina and Itai, 10th grade students from the New Mexico School for the Arts. Teacher, Acacia McCombs.
Looming over our small city of Santa Fe is the vast expanse of the Santa Fe National Forest. Its great mountains, valleys, and forests stretch for 310 square miles across the Sangre Keystone Mountains. This area is the site of much of the outdoor recreation in the Santa Fe area. Hiking, skiing, mountain biking, and many other outdoor activities are enjoyed year-round. There is also a plethora of beautiful flora and fauna that call this area home, but all of this is at risk due to climate change.
Often when we think of climate change, we picture a factory in a big city far away from the clean air of New Mexico. But as the climate changes, our home gets drier and hotter. This means controlling fires becomes even more difficult. Statistics show that the temperature in New Mexico has been rising at about 0.6 degrees Fahrenheit per decade since the 1970s. Also since then, northern New Mexico has survived some devastating fires.
These fires have been scary, and it would seem right to put every fire that starts out immediately. But as a matter of fact, wildfires are an essential part of the forest ecosystem. Forest fires thin the forest and allow for new plants to grow. Without the fires, the forests become crowded, and when there's a fire, it is much worse. The ever-dying climate in New Mexico provides the perfect canvas for nature to plant its fiery masterpiece on. As a state, we need to start to practice adaptation strategies to mitigate the effects of an ailing planet.
Over the last few months, I have done research into strategies that would make the Forest Service and Fire Department more effective in controlling wildfires. By building a computer-generated model of the Forest Service can use simulations to predict where the fire is going to spread and how to control it. Stephen Guerin is a scientist at the Santa Fe Institute and the president of the Redfish Group. He studies complex adaptive systems. Mr. Guerin has used his research to build models to help communities develop adaptation strategies for wildfires. In my interview with Mr. Guerin, we talked about how this tool, combined with cameras located on the cell towers that sit on Tesuque Peak, would make us one step closer to a safer Santa Fe. Implementing these new strategies would help decrease the number of uncontrolled fires in the area, allowing for a healthy forest and less damage done to houses. This summer, once the snow melts, I intend to push the Forest Service to install the necessary infrastructure and to help set up the systems needed to make this project a reality.
For my part of the project, I was researching fires around rural areas and homes and how to better protect your house. Once given this information, I form my projects around these ideas. Once it gets warmer and the snow melts, I plant together my family and some friends to help thin out the forests of dead wood and anything that could fuel a fire. Along with this, I learned about different safety zones that should be around your house. These are thinned out parts of the forest surrounding your house a certain amount of feet away. There are 3 of these zones, and the zones are meant to give you a layer of protection between your house and the fire.
By doing these projects, we can start to move New Mexico in the direction of new mitigation strategies to keep New Mexico beautiful for generations to come. But all of you need to help as well. If you live in a forested area, clearing dead wood and brush around your house and talking to the fire department about how to prepare your property for wildfires are both great ways in which you can make a big difference. Please be careful and help protect our forests.
For Best Style Video, a prize of $100, a project by Madeline, a 5th grade student from Amy Beale Community School. Teacher, Malcolm Smith. And now for Most Engaging Project, a prize of $100, DJ Silva Money by Brody, a 9th grade student from the New Mexico School for the Arts. Teacher, Acacia McCombs.
This is a DJ Silver Money exclusive.
Ayo, one take. Ayo.
This is a rap about wildfire and drought. You know I'm gonna teach you, man, it's no doubt. Just so you know, here's a couple definitions. All this stuff is gonna make some
Like addition.
Wildfire is a large fire that spreads quickly. When it passes through your land, it's gonna look sickly. Drought is a period of low rainfall. That means no water for pools and no beach balls.
You need to know this stuff so we can go forward. Money's gonna go so fast, you are gonna be cornered. Corner!
Now we're gonna talk about the action to prevent it because they're really easy and it takes within a second. Thinning projects is a good choice to do. The only bad side is it might mess up shoes. It's not the only one, there's others too. Rain barrels might be the choice for you. If you don't want to do either, maybe just clean. Cause a good looking yard is also hazard free. And when there's less hazard, there's less fire. And that will make
make the power of the earth grow higher. Yeah, Mother Earth will love you, and you'll love her back. I mean, not doing this, it's just kinda whack. I hope you like my rap. I think I'm pretty good. I'm gonna lead by example and go clean some wood.
Yo, 2021, local music, biology class. Shout out Miss McCombs. Hey, take it, Juliana.
For most practical project, a prize of $100, Climate Adaptation Strategy on Extreme Heat in Ganado, Arizona by Samarie, a 6th grade student at Ganado Middle School. Teacher, Charo Delone.
Yate She'e Samari Shia. I come from the Navajo Nation. My clans are Twinichitni Nishle, Kia Ani Bashishtin, Twinakuja Dashate, Mai Dashkijni Dashanella. I am going to be presenting my PowerPoint presentation. Climate Adaptation Strategy on Extreme Heat in Ganado, Arizona. Prepared by me, Samar. I'm in 6th grade and I go to school at Ganado Middle School. My STEM teacher is Ms. Charo L. Dolam, Ganado Middle School Unified School District. Introduction. Extreme heat in Arizona is defined as summertime temperatures that are much hotter and humid than average. Places in Arizona are hotter than others. It depends on what's considered average for a specific location. Burnside and Ganado, Arizona are part of the Navajo Nation, and Ganado is part of the Fort Defiance Agency. Ganado has a semi-arid climate. A semi-arid climate, semi-desert climate, or a steppe climate, which is the climate of a region that receives precipitation below potential evapotranspiration. The extreme heat. Extreme heat occurs when the temperature reaches high levels or when the combination of heat and humidity causes the air to become oppressive. The hottest ever recorded temperature in Arizona is 128 degrees Fahrenheit at Lake Havasu City. Phoenix, Arizona, hottest temperature is 122 degrees Fahrenheit on June 26, 1990. Temperatures have been increasing in Arizona since 1970. In the summer of Arizona, the temperatures will increase very high. That can lead to very deadly heat waves. Arizona may be one of the hottest states in the United States. But still to this day, temperatures are still increasing. Over the past years, people have been dying every year due to really hot temperatures, which people would die from heat strokes. Arizona is a desert and is the most sunniest state in the country. And here is a graph of the temperatures rising over the past years. And my climate adaptation strategies. Number 1, adding more cool roofs, cool pavements, and cool road surfaces. Number 2, installing air conditioners into all homes to keep cool. Number 3, adding more shaded areas all over like parks and more water features like fountains. Number 4, growing more trees and vegetation and adding more green roofs and walls to buildings. And here are my references of where I got some of my information from. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Hagonet.
For most effective, efficient project, a prize of $100, water conservation through xeriscaping by Jaden, a junior at West Las Vegas High School. Teacher, Erica Guaba Roldan.
Water conservation through xeriscaping. Water is being wasted continuously all over the world. While some areas may not be drastically affected by this, other areas like my hometown are feeling the effects. Las Vegas, New Mexico is a small town located in the north-central part of New Mexico. Currently, Las Vegas is in a severe drought that is causing low irrigation, high wildfire risk, and much more. Through conducting research, I have found that xeriscaping is an adaptation that can save large amounts of water for Las Vegas. You may be asking yourself, what is xeriscaping? According to National Geographic, xeriscaping is the practice of designing landscapes to reduce or eliminate the need for irrigation. With this information in mind, I would now like to explain why xeriscaping will save water for Las Vegas and why you should invest in xeriscaping your yard. Many people may be reluctant to switch to xeriscaping because they like the way a lawn looks. However, looks can kill, and that is exactly what lawns are doing. According to WaterSense, the average American family uses 320 gallons of water per day, about 30% of which is devoted to outdoor uses. More than half of that outdoor water is used for watering lawns and gardens. If we do the math, we will calculate that the average American family is using 48 gallons of water per day on their lawn. This is approximately 91 2-liter bottles of water. In dry regions like Las Vegas, most of this water is wasted daily. According to WaterSense, in dry climates such as the Southwest, a household's outdoor water can be as high as 60%. In addition, some experts estimate that as much as 50% of water used for irrigation is wasted due to evaporation, wind, or runoff caused by insufficient irrigation methods and systems. The reason these facts are important is because many people don't realize they are wasting large amounts of water watering their lawn. This water is very valuable, and if it continues to be wasted by watering a lawn, areas like Las Vegas may become uninhabitable in the future. Xeriscaping is very helpful in dry regions because it saves water for the climate, which results in the severity of a drought decreasing. A great example of xeriscaping saving water is in Novato, California. According to National Geographic, in Novato, California, residents were offered conservation incentives to convert from traditional lawns to xeriscape. The city's water department estimated that houses that chose xeriscaping saved 120 gallons of water a day. 120 gallons of water being saved daily exceeds the 48 gallons of water that were being wasted watering the average American family's lawn. If incentives were given to residents to switch to xeriscaping, many people would be willing to switch. The good thing about xeriscaping is it is affordable. A resident can xeriscape their yard without paying thousands of dollars. In an article titled 5 Ways to Xeriscape on a Budget, Emily Cross-Reeves says the 5 simple steps to reduce the cost of xeriscaping is to xeriscape your yard on your own, purchase minimal hardscape, grow drought-tolerant plants from their seed, use non-invasive plants that spread by self-seeding, and make homemade mulch. These steps listed by Reeves can help reduce the cost, but it will take extra work and time. People in Las Vegas will have to be willing to do things such as growing drought-tolerant plants from their seed and making homemade mulch. However, these hardworking tasks can be used to create family bonding time, and they can be used to learn something new. Now that you know xeriscaping is an effective way to conserve water, I highly encourage you to xeriscape your land. Not only will you be conserving water, but you will be improving the climate, saving money, and you will have a nice looking yard.
For most effective storytelling, a prize of $100 each, Soil Care is Climate Repair by Alex, Adrian, and Athena, homeschool students in 6th and 4th grades. Teacher, Annie Hanna.
Climate change is happening now. We can already see its effects in New Mexico.
We are in a severe drought.
Our snowpack has been very low. Last summer, 40 miles of the Rio Grande went dry.
There are no new cottonwood saplings
because the river has not flowed through the wider Bosque area for decades. 2011 to 2020 was the hottest 10 years ever recorded, showing a climate change trend.
We know we are going to need to adapt and respond to climate change.
Why is our climate warming?
The short answer is
because we are burning fossil fuels, which releases carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide traps in heat from the sun, causing our Earth's temperature to rise. I love the snow-capped sandias in the winding Rio Grande. The sad thing is, these places are being destroyed by climate change. We already have a simple solution to adapt and even solve climate change. And it's been here as long as the Earth. The solution is groundbreaking, but don't break the ground.
it's the soil. Healthy soil and plants actually sequester carbon.
During photosynthesis, plants take in carbon dioxide. They release the oxygen into the air and the carbon into the soil, where it can be stored for hundreds of years.
How do we make the soil healthy?
Animal integration. For example, a herd of buffalo will move into an area. Their hooves aerate the soil and their manure fertilizes the soil. Soon, fungi and bacteria break this material down, making the soil rich with nutrients.
You can have goats that do this. You have sheep that do this, no? You could have buffalo, that's fine.
Cover crops or soil armor is important to soil health.
Cover crops like buckwheat, hemp, clover, winter wheat, winter rye are all protection for the soil.
Cover crops slow down runoff from monsoon rain so it doesn't destroy the soil. Not tilling the soil is also important for soil health.
Tilling releases carbon from the soil and into the air.
Soil health is also dependent on plant diversity. Plant diversity is important because it balances ecosystems and mitigates erosion.
Soil health needs continual root systems.
We need to make sure plant roots can go deep into the soil. Then the plants after can easily reuse the channels created by previous plants to get deeper.
Imagine hiking down a trail looking at the waving grasses.
We can restore the earth to the lush place it once was with the planting of trees. By keeping the soil healthy, you can see biodiversity return to a devastated place.
It's a quite simple recipe to adapt and even reverse climate change.
Healthy soil,
healthy plants,
healthy animals, healthy planet.
For innovative creative concept, a prize of $100 each, Trees Reimagined by Siri, Phoenix, and Rosie, 9th and 10th grade students at the New Mexico School for the Arts. Teacher, Sativa Cruz.
Trees Reimagined by Siri, Phoenix, and Rosie.
Our climate impact that we're focusing on is the extreme climate. We want to focus on the moderation of New Mexico's climate and the restoration of its ecosystems through the power of trees.
The location we chose was Albuquerque. Climate change has affected the average annual temperature in New Mexico, which has increased by about 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit over 45 years and is projected to rise another 3.5 to 8.5 degrees Fahrenheit by 2100. We need to adapt and plant trees that can withstand drier and hotter climates, and the death rate of trees has already increased by 50%. Proposal. We propose to moderate the impacts of climate change in Albuquerque through urban reforestation, using species adapted to extreme heat and drought, selecting appropriate species like Mexican redwood, and using inoculation to improve outcomes. Our proposal will lower temperatures, reduce storm runoff, improve air quality, and increase biodiversity in the city.
Our adaptation strategy is soil inoculation, which is the process of introducing soil with proper bacteria and fungi, and it's most needed in dry areas to help soil fertility. It helps plants obtain correct amounts of nutrients, and can be bought at most plant stores. In general use, you coat the seeds with a powdered bacteria/fungi, and a network of mycelium grows beneath the soil. Inoculation in action. In this experiment, seedling A was not inoculated and seedling B was inoculated with AMF inoculum. AMF stands for arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, and it improves overall soil health, and it's a common type of inoculum.
How will trees help? According to Jacob Peterson, an arborist focused on helping Santa Fe through restoration, trees will help climate change moderation by reducing air pollution. They can absorb carbon and solar radiation from the air. They manage stormwater by allowing rain to be filtered through the soil, which prevents chemicals from washing into groundwater sources and flowing directly into drains. They protect biodiversity and create habitats for arboreal creatures. They can also create shade, cooling the area. Other advantages include increasing mental and physical health. They can reduce stress and create a calm space to work in, as well as improve physical health by motivating to exercise, reducing obesity.
Location type. Streetscape with restricted growing area. The tree type we chose was the American redbud, which is highly drought resistant and is adaptable but does better with well-drained soil. It also does well in confined spaces. Number of trees needed. Approximately 1.5 million trees are present on public and private property in Albuquerque. Only 5% of those trees are in parks. Our project will target the 75,000 trees in public parks as well as those at single-family residential homes through a free or reduced-cost tree distribution program.
Cost and feasibility. We estimate that the city could grow these trees for approximately $10. If we were to plant the targeted 75,000 trees, the cost would be $750,000. Residents could buy at cost. Also, inoculation prices are low. It costs about 43 cents for 1,000 seedlings to be inoculated, and for more expensive inoculation treatments, the highest it costs is only 10 cents per seedling.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
As you can see, we have an abundance of talent and creativity in our youth. The next round of awards highlights projects that have scored well across the board. They scored high as outstanding overall projects. First up, we have for outstanding entry by an individual, a prize of $200, Adapting to Our Present and Changing Futures by Renata, a junior at Arm & Hammer United World College of the American West. Teacher, Aaron Yang.
Environmental crisis. What do you think about when you hear these words? Pain, destruction, disasters, and the list goes on. At the current moment, climate change is one of the biggest challenges that humanity has ever had to face. The greatest contributors to the greenhouse gas emissions in Mexico are the sources from which energy is obtained. In fact, the energy industry is responsible for 24.1% of the national carbon emissions. However, it has also been proved that the residential sector uses 25% of Mexico's total energy. From this absolute electricity used by each family, the 21% can be attributed to a single product, fridges. And around 70% of the Mexican population owns at least one. If fridges were powered by a different energy source, this 21% would disappear, causing the percentage of electricity used to decay. This alternative source is lithium. Lithium batteries have high energy density, high voltage, and low percentage of self-discharge. These properties make lithium one of the most energy-efficient options that have ever existed. The first step to introduce lithium fridges into our societies would be associating with other firms. Why? Well, every time an individual bought a product from these specific companies, a small amount of money would be added to their saving accounts, which would be later used to provide them with a lithium fridge. Choosing to use a fridge powered by a renewable energy source is just one of the strategies to fight climate change and also to adapt to the consequences of it. Our whole systems will be impacted by global warming. Thus, our nations should be economically prepared to shift our societies towards systems aligned to the upcoming changes. Energy efficiency is an adaptation strategy because it provides the monetary opportunity to invest in other sectors such as the infrastructure sector. which is highly relevant to focus on to diminish the impacts of floodings, heat waves, and sea level rise. A decline in electricity consumption would also mean a significant reduction of the energy bill, which would give a broader financial opportunity for families to adapt to climate change. It is true that other alternatives such as solar panels have not achieved to enter our markets. However, by promoting such an essential good as fridges, a bigger percentage of the population will have the possibility of acquiring it, and thus experience the perks of using green products, which in the future could inspire them to choose other sustainable options. Litter adaptation strategies be also a mitigation strategies. Our time is running out, but we have the possibility of changing our future if we encourage one another to remain resilient in our struggle against climate change. The choice is in our hands.
For outstanding entry by a class, a prize of $20 per student and an award of $100 towards implementing their project, Trailblazers and Water Harvesters by Tara Dayton's 4th grade class at Amy Beale Community School.
Hello, I am Austin from Amy Beale Community School, home of the Trailblazers and the Water Harvesters, presented by Ms. Dayton's 4th grade class, Amy Beale Community School, National Green Ribbon School, and LEED Gold Certified. For our Climate Innovation Challenge project, we are focusing on our school as our location. We need to adapt to drought, and we want to bring the cisterns back to life. We want to utilize the rainwater that can be harvested from the rooftop and irrigate the drought-tolerant native plants that are planted on the school grounds. Here are a few drawings of our observations made by our students. Drought. According to New Mexico News, we are experiencing an exceptional drought here in our state. Every drop of rain that falls is important and much needed. How much rainfall does Santa Fe get in a year? On average, Santa Fe gets 14 inches of rainfall each year. Here is a chart showing how much rainfall Santa Fe gets each year. Here are 2 of the 4 1,400-gallon cisterns and some of the drought-tolerant native plants at our school. We learned about the Pueblo people in our class. They use pots or ollas, seen on the left, to harvest water. These pots belong to a student's family on the Santo Domingo Pueblo. They also built dams to capture rainwater and melted snow. This water irrigated the Three Sisters crops: beans, corn, and squash. Today we have made huge technological advances, and we can harvest rainwater at our school in the cisterns seen on the right. We spent a lot of time learning about climate change. Next steps. Our class secured a donation from Home Depot. The store agreed to give our class 2 100-foot garden hoses. Our teacher is picking them up from the store today. We are working with Ms. Torres and the maintenance crew at our school to get these cisterns back in action as soon as possible. We will be watering our classroom plants and will be planting more drought-tolerant plants in this raised bed behind our classroom. Here are our works cited. This is where we got our information from. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed our class project idea and our presentation.
For outstanding entry in elementary school, a prize of $300, Milkweed by Gabriella, a 5th grade student at Amy Beale Community School. Teacher, Malcolm Smith.
Hi, how are you? I'm good, and you? I'm well. Thanks for asking. So what are we planting? Today we're going to plant milkweed. What's that? Milkweed is a plant that's also food for monarch butterflies. And it needs very little amount of water, and that's called xeriscaping. I'm doing this to help the monarch butterflies because they're endangered.
Oh, I didn't actually know monarch butterflies are endangered.
Yeah, and according to baynature.org, a week after Thanksgiving in 2020, there were only 2,000 monarch butterfly spottings.
Only 2,000?
Wow. Here in Santa Fe, we're high risk for drought, and milkweed does not require a lot of water. So therefore, milkweed is kind of perfect for Santa Fe.
So I guess we could go into drought any time, but in the summer, it's probably a lot worse because of all the heat.
Exactly, and in the coming decades, climate change will enhance the risk of drought in New Mexico.
Oh wow, it's kind of scary to know that we could go into drought anytime, especially if there's not enough water for the people, plants, and animals. I wonder if milkweed comes in different colors, and if so, what color would ours be? Gabby, do the milkweeds come in different colors?
Yes, they do. For example, they come in white, orange, pinkish, and purplish. It depends on the one you have.
Oh, so do you think you know which colors ours is?
For outstanding entry in middle school, a prize of $400, Microbes for Earth by Maggie, a 7th grade student from Santa Fe Preparatory School. Teacher, Robin Koval.
Microbes. They are the first living things in the oceans and the first things to create life. You could even say that they're the backbone of the earth. However, they are hugely affected by climate change. While everyone is focused on the things they can see, they usually forget about the things they can't see. But I'm here to change that. Microbes help humans a lot more than you think. They help produce dairy products, and there is one microbe named Geobacter that might be able to help harvest harmful metals like cobalt. And brown ice algae lives underneath the ice in Antarctica and makes up the beginning of most food chains. However, the vastly warming climate is killing off some of these good microbes since they don't have time to adjust. Also, if the ice algae melts, then it will kill off most of the ocean's food chains. As the climate keeps warming up and humans' ever-growing expansions, animals can't live in their natural habitats, and extreme temperatures can change zoonotic diseases to the point where they can jump to humans. An effort called PREDICT, which has found 1,000 new animal-borne viruses jumping to humans in the past 10 years, which isn't normal and is an increase. Between 1793 and 1905, there were 9 devastating yellow fever epidemics. 7 coincided with a major El Niño episode. El Niño is a band of warm water that develops off the Pacific coast of South America every 4 years or so. Medical news today. If Ebola or any other disease in that specific family changed due to the heating of the climate and caused a pandemic in a crowded city, it would be so. How can we stop good microbes from getting killed and bad microbes from getting stronger? Well, microbes in the soil can take in harmful gases, turn them into good gases, and put them into the atmosphere. However, these microbes are also getting killed by the warming of the climate. But fungi can help make these microbes and plants around them stronger. How do they do it? Fungi have a huge root system called mycelium that exchange nutrients from trees, plants, and good microbes. They help each other grow and photosynthesize. Fungi will protect plants and good microbes from parasites and bad microbes. Mycelium uses a lot of carbon when helping the soil, so it stores carbon in the soil. My adaptation strategy is to grow fungi on insulant, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, which is some wood with mycelium growing on it. Put it in nature and water it every day with microbe-rich water. Then watch it grow. It'll be a good food source, and it'll help out with plants and good microbes. I think if we all try and help microbes, we can potentially stop future pandemics from happening, and we can help prevent the extinction of some good microbes. We can then protect our microbial environment and our forests with the help of fungi and microbes.
For outstanding entry in high school, a prize of $500, Seagrass for Climate by Emma, a junior at the Armand Hammer United World College of the American West. Teacher, Aaron Yang.
Hi, I'm Emma Hedren, and in this video I will be talking about seagrass. You already probably knew that one of the biggest contributors to climate change are greenhouse gases. What is climate change, you may ask?
Climate change is a long-term change in the average weather patterns that have come to define Earth's local, regional, and global climates.
One of the best ways of fighting climate change is getting to the root of the problem: greenhouse gases getting into our atmosphere. Fixing the root of climate change is called mitigation. Unfortunately, mitigation isn't our only option anymore. We must also protect our communities and ecosystems by adapting as climate change goes on. These strategies are called climate change adaptation strategies. Okay, so what do these have to do with seagrass? In fact, seagrass is a promising solution as both mitigation and adaptation strategy. They resemble grasses with their long leaves, except that there are 72 different kinds of them, some with paddle kind of leaves and some with spaghetti kind of leaves. And nowadays, these seagrasses give home to an impressive amount of organisms. Many species of microalgae and invertebrates live on the leaves, and others live in the roots. Other organisms include clams and polychaete worms, which attract even more organisms such as fish, manatees, sea turtles, sharks, and octopuses. But there are some things that I'm a little worried about. Seagrasses are lost at an annual rate of 1.5% per year. What is even more worrying is that many threatened species rely on these seagrasses, and a quarter of the seagrasses themselves are threatened. So, as a mitigation strategy, seagrasses are excellent at carbon storing. The world's seagrass meadows can capture up to 83 million metric tons of carbon each year.
Seagrass is super interesting if we compare it to tropical rainforests. Seagrass is actually a better absorber of carbon, and it's going to hold that carbon in the ecosystem, unlike a rainforest where we might chop down and use the wood and release carbon.
By planting more seagrass, more carbon will be stored. But seagrass is not only a mitigation strategy, it's also an adaptation strategy. Seagrass plots can protect the coast from storms, flooding, erosion, and sea level rising. It acts as a buffer for storm surges and floodwaters resulting from more unpredictable weather caused by climate change. Protecting and planting seagrass also helps to secure the livelihoods of local communities relying on fishing. They also improve and regulate the water quality in the coast. But there's a problem. Aquatic ecosystems are especially vulnerable to climate change.
Seagrass is an entire ecosystem. If you lose the primary producer, all of the organisms that rely on that ecosystem are also lost.
On a positive note, seagrass has been used in many countries to fight climate change already. A 20-year study in Virginia showed that with 200 hectares of planted seaweed, they could re-establish the ecosystem after a hurricane. Restoring and conserving seagrass populations has proven to be an effective way to fight climate change. Studies have shown that older plots store more carbon and nitrogen. But how can we as individuals support this? We can all be mindful when moving on water near the source. You can also raise awareness by spreading the information about how seagrass is actually pretty awesome. We must protect our home as a species responsible for climate change.
And now for our grand prize, our Best of Show award. The MacGyver Award goes to the project that not only scores the highest, but it goes to the student or students that are able to use their ingenuity to MacGyver their way out of our climate problem and into an innovative adaptation strategy. It will serve as an example going forward of what we know students are capable of. The MacGyver Award for $1,000 goes to Saving Water with Aquaponics by Benjamin, a 7th grade student from Santa Fe Preparatory School. Teacher, Robin Koval.
In
today's changing world, we face a multitude of human-caused ecological problems, one of these being droughts. Often, droughts are just a part of the natural cycle of the environment, but sometimes they are caused by us. When we burn fossil fuels, we release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. The carbon dioxide then traps heat against the Earth's surface, leading to droughts that are more severe and last longer than normal, which is a big problem. When this happens, it becomes more important than ever for us to save water. In most parts of the world, over 70% of fresh water is used by agriculture. What if there was a more water-efficient way to grow food? There is. It's called aquaponics, and it's already being adopted by many farmers around the world today. Aquaponics is a combination of aquaculture and hydroponics, a type of soilless farming, so you grow plants as well as fish. To learn more about this, I talked to aquaponics expert Matthew Andre.
What are some benefits of aquaponic systems?
Aquaponics are insanely efficient. They use anywhere from 8 times or 9 times less water. You get natural fertilizer from your fish, from the fish waste. It is all natural fertilizer to the foods. You're not using any manufactured or mined fertilizers. It's efficient. You're doing a whole heck of a lot of work, building a lot of food in a very small space, and you're free of pesticides and herbicides.
How efficient are these systems?
Basically, the idea that you're making 10 times as much food in a small space. It's like having a quarter acre, and you can put it in a shipping container and grow that much food. So it's incredibly efficient.
Well, thanks for your time, Matthew.
My pleasure.
The ways that aquaponics are more efficient than dirt farming really astounded me, so I decided to try it for myself. We bought a 330-gallon water tank, loosened the screws on the top of the cage, and dragged out the inner lining, then cut the top off of both. Once we reassembled them, it looked like this. I haven't added fish yet because we need the weather to be warm enough to grow plants, but here's how it will work. The water is pumped up from the fish tank into the grow bed, where the plants filter out and benefit from the harmful nitrates before the water drains back down to the fish tank, providing the fish with fresh oxygen. In this system, we will use 90% less water than dirt farming, while also producing 8 times more food. Therefore, I propose that our government provide financial assistance for the construction and purchasing of aquaponic systems to encourage farmers to convert their farms to aquaponics. If just 10% of the farms in the US converted to aquaponic systems, we would save 11.5 billion gallons of water every day.
Thank you so much to all the students for these amazing projects. What a remarkable array of talent, creativity, and passion. And to think these projects just scratched the surface of what was submitted this year. In your own homes, please give another big round of applause to all of our participants. I couldn't be more proud of the entire CIC community. I want to thank our outstanding judging panel for combing through the 155 projects submitted to this year's competition to narrow it down to these final award-winning projects. This eclectic mix of educators, media professionals, and scientists put in hours of volunteer work to review and score each and every project that came in. Every student who submitted a project will